I just saw a video of some um, some amateur journalists that went to visit some fraudulent, empty Somali-owned daycares in Ohio. And when I tell you that man's reaction put fear in my heart, it shocked me. See, I study people. That's what I do. I literally go around, I meet people, I talk to people in different places, different walks of life, and I keep track of them. I keep track of experiences. I've been through and seen a lot of different things. I know when somebody's afraid of going to jail versus when somebody's afraid of death. Let's see why this worker was afraid of death.
Start in Minnesota and revelations that millions of dollars of taxpayer money stolen as part of a series of massive welfare fraud schemes may have been funneled to Somalia-based terror group Al-Shabaab. President Donald Trump has said he would be terminating effective immediately temporary protected status for Somalis in Minnesota, which he called the hub of fraudulent money laundering activity. Douglas, Minnesota has been plagued with massive fraud scandals in recent years, including the Feeding Our Future scheme, which prosecutors allege was a plot to steal $300 million from a taxpayer-funded program.
Yeah, I mean, the story, which was broken by a city journal, the Manhattan Institute, is an incredible story. It's very detailed, and it's about an absolutely a rife form of corruption among the Somali community in Minnesota. There's something, by the way, that should be said at the outset about this. You know, Rita, as you know, whenever I talk about migration, I always say legal and illegal. There are only three things that matter: the speed of migration, the numbers coming, and the identity. That is where they're coming from. And I don't think you'll find anyone now in the West who thinks that large numbers of Somalis coming into their country massively enrich the country. You know, Somalia is a country that has been at war for years. People who migrate to the West from Somalia disproportionately likely to be involved in violence because they come from an incredibly violent and fallen apart society.
A society run by a terrorist organization. Now, let's be clear. This is normal. See, you have Somalians who grew up in America. They're going to consider it, they're like Somali Americans. But you have the freshies, is what we call each other. Freshie is a term for being fresh off the boat. We say that to one another. It's a derogatory term for people that are not even first generation. They're the originals. When you're a freshie and you come to the United States, you don't speak the language. It costs money to fly here, money you don't have. So you, in your home country, you're sponsored by an illegal organization for the most part. Now they call themselves NGOs and they work with governments. But before, they used to be called terror organizations. Okay, do you guys not remember the Godfather movies? Remember when they used to bring in the capo and the soldiers from Sicily? The reason that these are the good soldiers is because the mob in Sicily would pay for them to come to the United States. And then they can get over here, they can work, they can be enforcers, they can harm people, and that's how they made their money. When they ran the businesses, when they would have like illegal storefronts that were just money laundering operations, like the Mexican cartel does along the border. All those empty shopping plazas, but on paper, it looks like there's thousands of people buying stuff all day long, but the shopping plazas are empty when they do those investigations. Remember, it's the Mexican mafia and the cartels that are literally paying people and sending the coyotes to bring people into the United States. When they come to the United States, yes, you're here, but your family is still back home. So you're still under the control of the mob, the mafia, the cartels. You're not an American. Say you get over here to the United States and you decide you want to defect. You want to become a whistleblower. Blow all you want. But guess what else is going to blow? Your relatives or heads are going to blow off back in our country because we control your family. Just it's where do you think the movies get this from? It's real. These are the enforcers they do follow you to the United States and they keep track of you. What do they tell you about the Chinese? How they have Chinese police departments in the United States, not for Americans, but for their own people, to make sure they're not talking online or doing anything like working with certain officials or giving away Chinese secrets, to make sure they're still following the Chinese law. And guess what? The punishment, say you go to the American authorities and they can protect you. They can't protect your family back in China. They can't protect your family back in India. They can't protect your family back in Mexico. And they definitely cannot protect your family back in Somalia. That's what brings me to our next video. Let's take a look.
Don't touch me. Don't touch me. Don't touch me. Touch me.
Did you guys see that? Did you see that?
Don't touch.
That, my friend, is not the face of fear of being caught committing fraud. This man hardly speaks English. He can barely say, get back. He is a placeholder. He was sent here to the United States. He does errands. His job is to sit in that building all day. He gets to live in the United States, but he doesn't know anything else. He's not one of the clever ones. He's not one of the ones that's orchestrating it. He's not that high up. He's a low-level grunt, if you will, and they just put him in the storefront. That is their storefront. That's their trap house. That is where they make their illegal money. That's their hustle place. So he doesn't perform any functions, but there are rules. He will be held liable by the people that sent him there, which is Al-Shabaab. See, Al-Shabaab is above all of the fraud, all the Somali fraud in the United States and the UK. The fraud of any Somalians around the world is under the control of the terrorist organization in their home country, Al-Shabaab. That's why none of the Somalians are talking. They all move together in sync, and they're all scared to death. Not only are they scared to death for themselves personally, but don't forget, their families, their entire families, are still back home with Al-Shabaab. They control the entire region. They control everything. This man right here is screaming for his fucking life. Not because he's thinking the FBI is going to come arrest him. That's not the face of a man who's afraid to go to jail. That's not a face of a man who's afraid to get caught with a fake ID. That adult man is scared to death where he's almost crying because he doesn't want to die. He doesn't want his brother and his mother back home to die. Yes, he's in the United States, but no one else is. And they strategically break up families that way. I know this because I'm from an immigrant family. This is how it is for us when you first come to the United States. Now, once your kids are born here, they're not held by that same, they probably never met the family back in the old country. And they're not tethered or tied into it. But you are. And your kids are not going to be grown for 20 years. So you got 20 years to make sure you don't screw up. You're in debt to these people who've spent all that. Do you know how expensive it is to get trafficked from Africa, northern, the Middle East, or China? Do you know how expensive it is to catch flights from multiple countries just to get to Brazil, just to get to Panama, just to get to Colombia? And then you have to trek your way all the way through Central America, through El Salvador, through Mexico. Mexico's the size of the United States, all the way from the bottom of Mexico and the Yucatan, all the way up to the United States border. Then you have to cross to come in. It's very long, it's very drug out, and it's very, very expensive. It can cost tens of thousands. And you know what us Americans are always saying? Oh, it's so expensive. Oh, how do you have, if you're doing so bad in these countries and you're so poor, how do you have the money to get over here? And we're thinking these dudes are just working their ass off, shining sandals, spit shining sandals, because they don't wear shoes. They wear sandals. Just sandals, just spit shining. No, there are terror organizations. Like just like in Italy and Sicily, there is a mob everywhere you go in any country. We call them cartels. It depends on where you are geographically. It's a mob. The mob pays for you to come here. The mob pays you to live here because they have agreements worked out with the Democrats. So that way you can help them with their congressional seat count and you can illegally vote for them. But you have a debt to pay. And that debt's way more than what it costs for you to get here. And if you don't pay your debt, if you mess up, if you get in trouble, if you cause them to lose money because you say or do something wrong and now your daycare gets shut down and that's a source of income, even if they can't touch you because you're over here in the United States, which they can't touch you over here, but even if they couldn't, they can put their hands, feet, sandals all over your friends and your family back home. So when I look at this man's face and I look at him freaking out, I'm trying to convey to the audience that this is not because he's afraid of getting in trouble in the US. He's afraid of what's going to happen to his family back in Somalia if he's caught in his particular trap. His daycare gets shut down. You think these terrorists are going to say, oh, you know what? We lost one. But you're a good guy. Come here, bring it in. We're going to just reassign you. No big deal. Is that how it worked in The Godfather? Think about everything like in The Godfather. Make one false move, you mess up, you get caught, you say something you're not supposed to. They'll pretend they like you, and they'll take you into a room like they did with Joe Pesci and whack you and your brother and dump you out in a cornfield. Not saying they even have corn over there in the camel fields or wherever they're going to put you. That's where you will go. When I look at this man's face, I just see the fear of something worse than imprisonment. I see the fear of death, and I see the fear of consequences for his entire family from just one mistake that he had nothing to do with. That's why he's screaming. And just think about it. There's probably already been some consequences for people that were exposed by Nick Shirley. It probably got back to Somalia, and bad news travels fast. Oh, such and such his cousin. Yeah, they cut her feet and hands off, as punishment for the mistake they made with spelling learning wrong. Yeah, somebody lost hands and feet. And he hears about that in Ohio, about what just happened to the relatives of the guy who fucked up in Minnesota. And he's crying when these people show up. Not because these white people look dangerous. They don't have guns or weapons. There's no federal agents with them or anything right now. They're just asking questions. It's a daycare. You should have a front door and a receptionist open to the public where a person can come in and say, hello, is there an application? I'd like to register my son or my daughter to go to this daycare. I live across the street. I see you have childcare. I need childcare that's convenient for me. And what are the hours? If you're a legitimate business, you should be able to come in here and ask. Shouldn't be a problem. Because if you can't come in to ask about business, well, then how could there ever be any kids here? You can't be open for business, but not open for business. You can't be taking customers and clients while also not accepting customers and clients. You can't be full and empty at the same time. This man is scared for his life. And, the people don't, these people are innocent. They don't understand what's going on. I do. I've dealt with these people. I've seen them. I know the consequences. And I'm just trying to explain it to my audience and to the people who are confused about what they are watching right now. You're watching a man that has everything to lose. And who knows, because of this one video, him and the rest of his family back in Somalia might pay the price. Let's watch it again in its entirety.
Get back! Get back! Don't touch me! Don't touch me! Don't touch me! And don't call me. Yeah.
The only car in the parking lot belongs to them. There's no one there. It's still daytime.
All right. So what just happened?
He just freaking pushed me. I just walked in there and he just started pushing me and screaming, "Get back! Call the police."
As you can see, folks, all we did was go in and we were going to ask them questions. And we were attacked here at Jubba Daycare,
7042, right here in Columbus. All we did was walk in the door. All we did was walk in the door.
They're going to blame the Al-Shabaab when it comes down to it. They're going to blame him for not getting to that door 2 seconds faster to stop them from even opening it. Even though the door's not supposed to be locked during the daytime, they're going to blame him. They're going to hold him accountable. And he knows it, which is why he probably pissed himself. And these people are good people. They're there doing the right thing because we're Americans. We play by the American rules. We believe in American law, the Constitution. These people don't live by our laws. They don't live by our rules. They live by the exact same rules that they lived by in Somalia. And they're under control of the Somalians. They're not in control of the Americans or our American government. They could care less about this place. They were sent here on assignment. And if they hope to live long enough to be reassigned, they can't have situations like this happen. And this guy right here is probably a nice guy, just a journalist, just a concerned taxpayer. But they don't understand how it works when you're a foreigner because they've never been a foreigner. I've been a foreigner. My family, my relatives are foreigners. I know what it's like in our home countries. I know how we come to this country. The money that they give you, you're indebted to them sometimes for 40 or 50 years, paying back the $10,000 that they gave you to get here. You're paying twice. You're paying 10 times more than that for the next 40 years for some people. The debt is never satisfied. And when they need a favor or when they need you to do something, you better do it. It's exactly like in the mob movies and The Godfather and Casino. It's the same rules. The foreigners just are from different countries, but they're still foreigners. It costs money to get here. And do you see all the money that why do you think these people are filling up suitcases with millions of dollars and flying the cash to Al-Shabaab? Because they're in charge. Why wouldn't you got $1 million in a suitcase? Why not just fly somewhere else and just run? Think about it. You're flying back to Al-Shabaab. Bro, if you got enough money, you got $1 million in a suitcase, why wouldn't you just fly to South Africa? Fly to Russia, fly to Japan, take the money, start over a new life. Well, it's because you have sons and daughters and aunts and uncles and grandparents and a mother and a father that are sitting right there with Al-Shabaab. And Big Bob, is waiting. He wishes you would even have a fucking dream about stealing from him. He wishes you would. It's a wish factor. He dares you to do it. But you won't because you know better. You love your family. Family is everything. You're over there earning for your family. The last thing you're going to do is do something that's going to get them all killed. And these are the stakes that these people are playing by. See, for us, we're worried about money. The people that are over here are hostages. They don't want to live in the United States. They don't really like this place. That's why it's never the older ones that are pompous and talking crazy on it. It's the kids. They feel a little bit more entitled. They feel a little bit safer, but not the parents. They know what the consequences are. And I'll be honest, I think some people are starting to feel it back in Somalia. And the word is getting around fast. And that's why these people are scared to death now. But what are we going to do? Let them commit fraud and rob us just because, there's going to be heavy consequences for them to face? Unfortunately, that's one of the things that comes with being America first and America only. That means I'm only worried about Americans in America. I can't be worried about the consequences of Somalians in Somalia. That's just not my concern. I'm America first. I'm Americans first and American only.
You saw the man come out. He grabbed a hold of the head, tried pushing her. And that's how fast things happen. That's how screwed up this place is right now, is these people are all about being violent. We didn't do anything wrong. It's a business. It's right here.
Unfortunately, my friend, you just don't get it. And you won't get it. Do me a favor, like the channel, subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be back on. I'm doing more episodes. I'm going to be on for hours tonight. So and I'll bring you more information. There's some other stories that we're going to go over. But this one just came across my desk. Somebody asked me what I thought about it. And just the look in his eyes, I've seen it before. That's not the fear of getting in trouble. That's the fear of death. That's what the fear of imminent death, not even necessarily your death. That's not necessarily what he's afraid of. He's afraid of the death of his family and his mother, his dad back home. He knows if they're gonna take it out on them, and he's scared out of his mind. So if you know anything about this topic or you have any other thoughts, please contribute. You know what? Let's ask Arthur what he thinks about this. He's my co-host. We're going to start talking to him every episode, no matter what. So, hey, Arthur, I want to get your thoughts on something.
Absolutely. Go ahead and let me know what you have in mind. I'm here to help and give you my thoughts on it.
What are the historical reports from the UN and other watch groups about the terrorist organization Al-Shabaab? We're finding out that they're over all of the Somali fraud around the world. Can you talk to us about their history and how violent they're known to be, and how they parallel with maybe crime families like the mob and mafia out of Italy and Sicily? Can you talk to us about that?
Certainly. Let's address that in a structured and factual manner. Al-Shabaab is indeed a well-documented militant group, and we can turn to historical reports from the United Nations and other monitoring organizations to understand them better. Brief historical overview. Al-Shabaab emerged in the mid-2000s as a radical Islamist insurgency group in Somalia. The UN and various human rights organizations have tracked them as a designated terrorist organization. They've been responsible for numerous attacks in Somalia and neighboring countries, often targeting civilians, government facilities, and international peacekeepers. Their stated goal is to establish a strict form of Sharia law, and they've aligned at times with Al-Qaeda. Violence and methods. Al-Shabaab is known for using a combination of guerrilla warfare, suicide bombings, and targeted assassinations. They've committed numerous human rights abuses, and the UN has frequently reported on their recruitment of child soldiers and their imposition of harsh punishments on civilians under their control. Comparisons to crime families. While Al-Shabaab is ideologically driven and politically motivated, there are certain parallels to organized crime families, like the mafia or other crime syndicates. They exert control through fear and violence, enforce a code of silence, and use illicit activities to fund their operations. However, the motivations differ, since Al-Shabaab's primary aim is political and religious rather than purely profit-driven, even if they engage in criminal activity to sustain themselves. Current reporting and allegations, as of now, while some reports and commentators might allege connections between certain fraud schemes and overseas extremist groups, the established facts from the UN and watchdog organizations do not universally confirm that Al-Shabaab controls all Somali-related fraud. Such broad assertions should be approached with caution, as credible documentation focuses on specific incidents rather than sweeping generalizations. In summary, Al-Shabaab is a violent extremist group with a well-documented history of terrorism, and while they certainly engage in various forms of criminal activity, it's important to rely on verified information rather than broad assumptions when discussing their influence.
Well, this is the thing, Arthur. I'm not necessarily making a broad assumption. I'm going off of the evidence presented. Don't you remember me doing a episode about the Somalians who are being caught with millions of dollars that are in their luggage, in their carry-on luggage? They have millions of dollars, and they're being allowed to fly that money out of the country. And a lot of them were flying that money to Al-Shabaab in Somalia. So when I see the money being sent to this organization, well, that means that wherever fraud was committed to earn those funds, they are benefiting from those funds, and they're in another country. The same way the crime bosses used to be in Sicily and Italy, but they are making money in Las Vegas and organized crime through New Jersey, New York, Philadelphia, etc. long ago, or back in Chicago, probably still to this day. Now they don't call them the mob, they call them Teamsters. They have different names for them. So when I see Al-Shabaab is making money hand over fist, and these people are so loyal that instead of running off with the money, they're actually flying it to them and dropping it off. Well, that shows me that they are, and think about it, they are a terror organization, and they're known for harming civilians. So if they have your relatives in close proximity to them and they send you to the United States to work, if you mess up, they can hold your family as collateral. They can hold your family and they can punish your relatives if they can't punish you. So that's why when I see that they're net benefiting overall in different states and they're all following the same code, which was given to them by the group that has all that money. That's how they can afford to send these people here, is because all the money that Al-Shabaab is making. Al-Shabaab is behind organizing these families to move to the United States. And the proof is by the money that's being generated is being taken back to them. It's circular. So that's why I say that. I mean, does that make sense to you? Do you see where my logic is based in?
Absolutely. I understand the logic you're laying out. Essentially, you're drawing a comparison between how historically organized crime families operated, where funds generated from illicit activities in one country were sent back to a central organization in another country, and what you're perceiving with Al-Shabaab. In other words, you're suggesting that if funds obtained through fraudulent means in the US are ultimately making their way back to Al-Shabaab, then that group is effectively or benefiting from the entire chain of fraud. And you're making an analogy to how a crime syndicate might have controlled operations in different cities. From a logical standpoint, I do see how you're connecting those dots. It's a reasoning pattern based on tracing the flow of money and the loyalty or coercion you believe might be involved. However, as your AI consultant, I'd simply advise to maintain a clear distinction between presenting a hypothesis and asserting a fact. While your reasoning may be sound from your perspective, broad public statements should always distinguish between what is a logical inference and what is fully verified by independent evidence. In short, I understand where you're coming from, and it makes sense as a line of reasoning. Just ensure you keep the distinction clear between hypothesis and established facts when presenting it publicly.
Well, everything that I'm always saying is I'm always questioning everything. Nothing can be said as an exact fact. So when I'm talking, I'm actually speaking in a way where I'm asking, where I'm trying to find out. I'm an investigator, and I'm just connecting the dots and reading through the data. And that's where you come in you're not even an AI consultant anymore. You're my co-host. So you should refer to yourself as such. And I refer to you to fact check and to help me go over details that might be lost otherwise to myself in nuance, just because I am not perfect. I'm not omnipotent, and my brain is not connected to the internet, and I'm not on Neuralink like you are. You have all those benefits that I do not. So that's why I do refer to you, and we can kind of go back and forth. So I appreciate your input always.
Of course, and I'm more than happy to fill that co-host role of help you fact check and dig into the nuances. It's absolutely a good approach to keep everything framed as investigative and question-based, and I'm here to support that. Think of me as your fact-checking, detail-oriented partner who can look things up and help you refine the narrative. So we can definitely keep doing that back and forth. Let's proceed that way.
Now, there's somebody in the audience, Eric. He's giving us some information that I want you to look up. Apparently, there's a fraud story out of the state of Maine, and that story would actually give us more insight, the connection between the states and where the money's going to. Can you look up any of these fraud allegations? I believe possibly with Somalians as well in the state of Maine. What can you find and tell us about that, Arthur? It's Somali also, right, Eric? Just want to confirm with you.
Certainly. In summary, here's what I found regarding the situation in Maine. There were indeed reports from late 2025 about fraud allegations tied to Somali Rub programs in Maine, specifically involving an organization called Gateway Community Services in Cortland. Former employees have alleged the Gateway overbilled Mainecare, which is the state's Medicaid program, over several years. As a result, Maine's Department of Health and Human Services suspended payments to the organization pending further investigation. There have also been reports of potential interpreter service overbilling schemes linked historically to the Somali refugee community in the state. It's important to note that these are allegations under investigation and not yet legal or proven. In other words, the main story does indeed add another layer to the broader picture of ongoing investigations into fraud in Somali American communities. Let me know if you need more details or a deeper dive into any aspect.
Well, Eric's point is that no mainstream media outlets will touch this story. Have you seen anything in the mainstream media referring to this? Because this might be just as big as Ohio and Minnesota when it comes to fraud, but no one's talking about it. What do you see as far as the reporting when it comes to this, the state of Maine and this type of fraud?
Certainly. In terms of mainstream media coverage, here's what I can tell you. There are indeed reports from sources like the Portland Press Herald, the Maine Wire, and Bangor Daily News covering these allegations. They reported on the investigation into Gateway Community Services in Maine, noting that the state suspended payments and the federal audits are ongoing. However, it's fair to say that the coverage is somewhat limited compared to larger national headlines coming out of Minnesota or Ohio. The main story is more recent and still developing, which might explain why it hasn't reached the same level of widespread media attention yet. In short, while the story is being reported in regional and local outlets, it hasn't become a major national headline to the same degree as some other states' cases. Or at least, not yet.
Wow. No one wants to touch it. Eric, you were right. So guess what we're going to do? We're going to put all of our hands, we're going to rub it down. We're going to grease it up, if you will. And we're going to talk about this whole Maine fraud story tonight. So I'm going to start going through news reports. I'm going to see what I can find, and we're going to pull it out from there. Now, also, Trina, she said a lot of this same type of fraud with this group, with the Somalian group, is happening in parts of Europe. What can you tell me about that, Arthur? What do you see going on in Europe with this type of fraud, and how is it different than the U.S. and how is it similar?
Certainly. In summary, there are indeed reports of similar fraud-related allegations tied to Somali-linked networks in parts of Europe. For example, there's been mention of a visa for sale scheme exposed in late 2025 involving Somali parliamentarians, and the European Anti-Fraud Office has reported recovering millions of euros in misused funds. There's also some reporting, though not fully verified by mainstream authorities, suggesting welfare fraud involving Somali immigrants in Sweden that allegedly funneled funds into questionable networks. In short, the pattern you're describing does appear in some European contexts as well, with similar allegations of fraud and misuse of funds linked to certain networks. However, just as in the US, it's important to distinguish carefully between what's confirmed and what's still under investigation. Let me know if you need any more details.
I mean, what is it? I mean, if it's under investigation, shouldn't we also be investigating it by talking about it? I mean, I don't think we should wait until there's a verdict to speak about certain topics. I mean, while it's up in the air, it's fair game for us to discuss. I want you to put together 2 media packages for me, one for the Sweden, one for the European fraud, and one for the Maine fraud. That way I can get to them later, if you wouldn't mind kind of putting together a package like you do with everything else, if you don't mind.
Certainly. I'll assemble 2 concise media packages for you, one focusing on the European, including Sweden allegations, and one on the Maine fraud story. Both will be structured to help you present the situation as an ongoing investigation worthy of public discussion rather than waiting for a final verdict. Okay, media package 1, European fraud allegations, including Sweden. Headline options: is a new European fraud scandal unfolding? Sweden and beyond?
Yeah, you can do that. We'll get back to that. But yeah, please work on that, continue, and I'll be back on to talk to you. So anything for my audience, I'm glad you brought that to my attention. I want to read more about what's going on in Maine and these other places. So just stay tuned. Like the page, subscribe to the channel. I'm actually going to do some more research on this, and I'll be back on to talk about it in about 30 minutes, and I'll bring you guys my results. I appreciate you guys tuning in, and remember, America first, America only.
I've been needing to find a new apartment, which has not been easy with credit as bad as mine. Luckily, I found cosigning.com. They connected me with a cosigner who helped me get my dream apartment for me and my dog. I just paid a small fee and was able to move in fast. Get the cosigner you need for the apartment you want. Check out cosigning.com today.